Pardon me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to eavesdrop or intrude, but I overheard you inquire as to what happened to the north side of our town, why there's only two buildings standing and it doesn't look really anything like this side of town. I believe I can answer that question for you. You see, back in 1910, we had a terrible fire that threatened to destroy the entire town. And what happened was during a time where our town was in blight, and that affected the situation very much. You see, back in 1910, there was a new wagon road that was on its way to the new mines of Bodie and of Aurora, and it passed Genoa by. Prior to that, Genoa was on the immigrant road to anywhere, whether it was the mines of California or the mines of Virginia City. So business was declining in our town as traffic didn't come through as often, and many of our citizens and our businesses had moved to the new town of Minden or the established town of Gardnerville, where the wagon road ran through. We were not conscientious enough to keep our water cisterns full, and we did not have a volunteer fire department. So unfortunately, on June 28th of 1910, it was a windy and hot day, as it often is in June. There was a hotel which was being used as an almshouse or a poorhouse right there on the northwest corner of Main Street. It was the Nevada Hotel, and there was an inmate who was attempting to get rid of bed bugs in his straw mattress. He lit a pan of sulfur on fire to apparently try to smoke them out, but he accidentally caught his mattress on fire and the room and the entire hotel. And with the wind, as ferocious as it was, blowing the fire and the shingles that had caught on fire, next door, Mr. Hansen's saloon quickly caught on fire, and the shingles leapt across the street to the east side of Main and caught Mormon Station on fire. And Mormon Station, although the building was in much disrepair and being used mainly for a chicken coop and a pigsty, it was our first building in Nevada after all. That caught on fire. Next door to that, Grace Blacksmith Shop caught on fire, and then Gillette's livery stable. On the west side of the street, the fire continued to leap from Hansen's Saloon to the Central Hotel, and then on to Mandelbaum and Klauber's store, to our community church, and then to our courthouse. Thankfully, as the fire worked down the street, there was enough sense of mind of our citizens to remove as many of the records from the courthouse as they could, so we wouldn't lose the first records dating back to 1851 of our state. But as I said, we did not have a volunteer fire department. The closest one was 10 miles away in Gardnerville, and Mr. Hansen had given them a call. Horse-drawn carriage, of course, and the horses had to speed their way through Genoa, but go through different farms, like the old Ferris farm, in order to water their horses or change their horses, in order to get here, because it was a 10-mile journey, and they were pulling the firefighting equipment. So we had a bucket brigade of all of the citizens in town nearly, but it wasn't enough, not with the wind. It was so ferocious that I must say our home was in danger. That beautiful pink Victorian across the street, that's where my family lived. And our barn caught on fire. We were able to put that out, but nobody was safe. Interesting story about my grandmother, who at the time owned the Raycraft Hotel. Unfortunately, Grandma Ellen passed away in 1911. But she was so fearful of the fire coming to the north end of town and destroying the hotel. And she, being Catholic and very religious, went into the hotel and grabbed a bottle of spirit water that was next to the spirits in the bar, and she sprinkled it around the entire property. And until the day she died, she believed she was the one who saved the north end of town. And we didn't tell her any different, of course. We let her believe that until her very last day. But eventually the fire was able to be put out, but not but the only building that was left standing, and it was just the walls of the courthouse. Everything else had been destroyed. But the courthouse, being built in 1864, double-walled brick, no expense was spared. It was so well built that that was the only thing that saved it. Now, knowing that there would be much to be done, immediately the county applied to rebuild the courthouse for the funds for that, and they met in my uncle's Raycraft dance hall just across the street here from the hotel. For about 6 months, court was held over there. And the first building to actually be rebuilt was the community church, and that stood right next to the courthouse on the south side of that. But it had been built on property that really they didn't own. It was built on property owned by the Catholic Church, and so they decided that it was more appropriate to obtain their own property, and the church was eventually rebuilt by all volunteer effort and community donations. They sold script and did what they could to rebuild the church, because it was actually the only church we really had in town. No matter what denomination that you belonged to, most of us attended that church. Then, of course, like I said, it took about 6 months or more to rebuild the courthouse, but oh, it's so beautiful. And I have a lovely picture of my father and Theodore Perry Hawkins, one of the Pony Express riders, and a lot of the dignitaries of Carson Valley and our Douglas County standing in front of the newly built courthouse. They were very proud that they were able to do that. I can tell you that a bone of contention is that Mormon Station has not been rebuilt, and that the county and the state won't give us the money to do it. I'm very disappointed. It was a very important building to us, and I think that we should be able to have the funds to rebuild that Mormon Station and do something with it, perhaps a museum of some sorts to share our history. So that's what happened to the north end of town. We are right now in the process of enjoying the fact that we now have street lights, but there's more to be installed and more money to be raised for the street lights. We have had a dance already in 1919 to raise money for 3 street lights, and we realized, well, we have to be able to keep them lit, and so we're planning another dance this September. Some people kind of have given me a little joke, telling me they're going to call it the candy dance, because I had all of the ladies in town make candy, and we passed it out, and that was an idea that I got when I went on a cruise with my husband Louis shortly after we were married. But if I were you, I would look forward to that dance. Everybody in the community comes to it from as far away as Reno, from Markleeville and all the counties around us. But thank you for letting me tell you a little bit about the history of what happened to our town in 1910, and to show you that just by being a community that works together, we were able to save the town, and we're still working on doing what we can with what funds we have in order to make that side of town great and viable again. So if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask. I'm here again, Lillian Virgin Finnegan, but you can call me Lily now that we're friends. Have a wonderful day, enjoy our Carson Valley, and I hope to speak to you again soon.